What's up, fellow Sambarians? Get comfortable. Get comfortable. You comfortable yet? Good. So, my buddy, Special Case, brought up a video, sent me a link of a video that popped up the other day. Someone claiming sandbars being little snowflake of a K-truck, fragile, weak, just the worst K-truck you could possibly buy. Just really drug the sandbar through the mud. Just terrible. I could not watch it. I'm just kidding. So a video came up and Special Cases sent it to me, and he was talking about sandbars, and all of a sudden, just, I guess, a huge increase in popularity. Pollito, cállate. Just a huge increase in popularity of the sandbars. I can't say why. I know Rutledge Wood is in the process of buying a supercharged sandbar. I personally do a lot of videos on the sandbar, more than the Acti, more than my Daihatsu. I have a Mitsubishi Bravo coming, which I'm super stoked about, which I can't wait to make videos on that. But I feel like I'm just really stuck to the sandbars. And I mean, my main reason for the sandbars being just in my opinion, the easiest and best K-truck, is the engine. The engine is right here in the back. It's extremely easy to work on. It's even easier than working on the Honda, in my opinion. I really don't look forward to doing anything on the Honda, hence why I haven't done a lot of videos on it, because it's not as convenient. But if you can get past the convenient part, Honda's a great K truck or van, car, whatever. So I just thought, hey, I'd make a video in case people are on the fence of buying a sandbar or an Acti or a Suzuki Carry or a Daihatsu Hijet or a Toyota Hiace, or there's just so many, and they all have their pros and cons. The first con, I would say, across the board, is they're all old. They're all old trucks. They're all 25 years or older, unless you live in maple syrup country. I'm kidding. If you live in Canada, you can import newer models of any truck. So a lot of people in Canada are importing the TTs, which is like the sandbar truck. They went from KS to TT or TV. TV's a van, TT's a truck. So I can't remember where I was going with that, but they're all old. They're all 25 years older. So the motors, depending on who had it before and how well they took care of it and how well they serviced it, is going to be a huge factor of how long that motor is going to last. I mean, I hear stories of people getting stuff over here, not just a sandbar, other vehicles. They get it right from the port and the engine literally explodes on the way home. And I mean, to me, it just seems like they just sit for so long. And even with the low kilometers, they sit for so long, oil doesn't, you know, get in all the, some of the journals get clogged up or whatever in the bearings. Main bearings don't get lubed, and they just, you know, throw a rod or a bearing or something, and it's catastrophe. So I feel like that could happen to a lot. This video, I think he showed, it was knocking, which could have been, I didn't really watch the whole thing. I remember he started it and it was making a knocking noise. So I feel like essentially any K-truck or K-van is pretty well prone to that. And I'm not saying this guy's incorrect. I'm not here to argue with anybody. I mean, I love my sandbars. I think they're great. Everybody has their preference on the K-truck that they want to get, and me, just personally, I think the sandbar is awesome. The supercharger is great. The only problem with the supercharger is that engine does get extremely hot. So the supercharger engines run a lot more rich than say a normal one, because it has to pump more fuel into the system to kind of cool the motor down. Because I can't remember, somebody did a whole thing on it, but I mean pretty much, you know, 10 minutes into driving the supercharged SAMBAR, like stuff is just super hot and you're losing power. I think they need an intercooler or something. Like they just get hot, so you're not getting full power as if it was cold. And then he did a whole methane or methane injected. I don't know all that stuff, but he did that whole injection, so it's super cold and runs way more efficient, so you get more power and you're not losing power because you're pumping more fuel into the system and running way more rich. That's a little above my pay grade. I'm just kind of working on these things, and not a whole lot of performance modifications going on my end, except for maybe a header and some squid pipes. But anyways, so I wanted to just say, hey, if you're looking for SAMBAR, don't feel discouraged if that's what you want. I feel like they're awesome. Independent suspension is great for off-roading. Actis have a straight axle in the back, so it's not independent suspension. A lot of them have leaf springs. Acti has leaf springs. These are, coil and a shock, which is great. And they're just, in my opinion, I feel like the SAMBARs are the easiest to modify, because you can do lowering springs all the way around without having to do any modifying of leaf springs or nothing. Hondas, you gotta get like lift shackles and all that stuff. These are just lift springs or lowering springs. So that's my favorite part. Just like the Daihatsu Midget and the van, the Acti van, I've got to find lowering leaf springs or take a leaf spring out. And it's just, for me, that's just more work. I want it to be simple modifications and not this whole thing of making it difficult, which that's totally fine. I'm just lazy. One of these days I'll end up lowering the van and maybe dropping the Daihatsu a little bit more, but the leaf springs just make things a little more complicated. And yeah, so again, I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I don't have all the answers. I can't tell you, everything about the SAMBARs. I can only tell you with my videos and my experience and how, they just need to be taken care of because they're old. And yes, the engines are so far in the back that you can't hear them when you're revving out or whatever. I mean, honestly, if on the stock exhaust, if you can't hear that motor all the way in the back, maybe get your ears checked. Because when this thing was stock, I mean, I was driving this thing around and the engine is loud. I mean, you can really hear it whining, and it gets up to about 6.5, 7 grand, and it's just like you're pinned. So what's up, Puito? So I mean, it's just stuff like that, and it's nice. The engine's in the back, and yeah, the Daihatsu engine is right underneath your butt, and there's talk about heat and cabs getting hot. Well, the Mitsubishi is also underneath the seat, so I can't say a whole lot about like the Mitsubishi, but I know for sure the Daihatsu, having the engine right underneath the seat is not a huge deal breaker, I don't think. I know the Daihatsu mine has AC, so as soon as it starts to get warm, I'll just throw the AC on. So I can't really tell you if it gets hotter in the cab with the engine underneath the seat. Maybe it does a little bit, but I mean, they do insulate pretty well underneath those things, because pretty sure it's not good business to be barbecuing your customers in their vehicles. I mean, you're not buying a Suzuki barbecue K truck. I mean, they want stuff to stay cool, obviously. So you want to buy their stuff, their vehicles. So I don't know if that's a huge issue with engines being underneath the seat. I just honestly like the engine in the back because it's just so easy to work on. It's so easy to work on. I mean, I'm touching my valve cover Can't do that with the Honda Acti. You can't do that with, well, any of them, because the Subaru is just different. And then there was talk about the 3-cylinder versus the 4-cylinder. 4-cylinder, in my opinion, sounds way better than the 3-cylinder Honda Acti. And I don't want to get any hate. I have a Honda Acti, so I feel like I can say that. I feel like this engine is much more quieter and much more smoother. And if you do any kind of modifying to the exhaust, the SAMBAR sounds sick. It sounds so good, especially if it's supercharged. So on a modifying standpoint, the SAMBAR is just easiest. So yeah, I just I haven't made a video in a while. The last video I did was rebuilding the carburetor on this one, and I thought, hey, this would be a good opportunity to just kind of talk about the SAMBAR versus the Honda Acti versus a Daihatsu Hi-Jet. I mean, Midget, which is basically a Hi-Jet, just smaller. Obviously, it's the same, almost the same motor. But you just need to take into consideration when you buy a K-truck from Japan and you have no knowledge on it, and especially if you're new to cars, you're just like, oh, I see that truck and I want it. I don't know a whole lot about cars, but hey, I can figure it out. Just be prepared. They're old and you're gonna need to work on them, and you're gonna need to take care of them, and you're gonna need to, you know, depending on how you care about the car, you're gonna need to baby it. You need to just go easy on it. I mean, Scott's SAMBAR, or Special K's supercharged SAMBAR, his is a special breed. I make a lot of videos on his. That motor is like, we can't figure it out. That thing's got some kind of, that motor's on steroids. We don't know if it's advanced, skipped a couple teeth on the timing, so that thing is just like balls to the wall all the time. I mean, that motor is powerful, but could be on its way out. So he's just like, hey, let's have fun with it before it blows up. So you got to have that kind of mentality. You want to have fun with it before it blows up, because it will blow up. Or you're gonna baby it and have it last a little bit longer before it blows up. And you just really, really need to stay on top of your service intervals, especially on these really high revving engines. You need to change that oil very often, especially the carbureted ones. You get fuel into the crankcase and you start thinning that oil out, and you start burning up bearings. So there's just a lot of things you need to take into consideration. You can't just jump to conclusions that these are weak, underperforming vehicles. I mean, I off-road my SAMBAR. I took it up to Mount Rainier, and it was pretty nasty. I ripped a couple CV axle boots, but it's lifted, so it's getting stretched on the axles. But as far as like durability, I mean, I feel like they're all made of plastic and thin metal, so they're all gonna break. As far as engine components go, not real. I haven't taken one of these engines apart, or any other engines apart, so I can't really tell you the quality of the engine internals. But I just know I did a red valve cover on my white KS4 with the low kilometers, and you could literally eat off of the rockers. I mean, it was so clean inside. So it's just like, if you get something that was well taken care of in Japan, you'll notice. The engine just is happier, and everything runs smoother. This one, it gets a little bit of a knocky noise, but it's because the main, that's another thing. I hear guys go, oh, my engine's making some clacking noises. Well, try pushing in your clutch, because my throwout bearing is kind of going out. I'm pretty sure it's a throwout bearing, because as soon as you step in, or it's pressure plate, you step on the clutch and the motor quiets out. So obviously, you know, my throwout bearing is going out on the clutch here, so it makes a clacking noise, which for a while I thought was a valve. So I made sure I adjusted the valves when I did the valve cover and everything, but turns out it's just the throwout bearing, because as soon as you put the clutch in, it's quiet and smooth and just great. And as far as like the service intervals go, like I'm using the best of the best oil, which, I mean, they say the best oil is new oil. Yeah, I mean, it's slippery and ready to go, but you know, how long does that oil last, and you know, how well is it going to hold up, because they're very high revving, high temp engines. So I personally, I'm using liquid moly or modal oil in these things, just because I think that oil is designed for higher revving, higher performance engines, which these aren't very high performance. They take a lot of beating because we drive fast in America and we want to take these things on the freeways, and that's another thing. If you're driving it daily and you're revving this thing out 60, 65 miles an hour on the freeway every day, yeah, your engine's probably not going to last very long, because these things are kind of for putting around. And again, if that's what you do, I'm not arguing with you about it. It's just you know, be aware that your engine's under a lot more stress than what it would probably typically be in Japan, as these guys cruise them around for work, putting around, I'm guessing. But yeah, I mean, I love the sandbars, and I don't want to recommend them because I don't want I still want to buy them and I don't want the prices to skyrocket, but they're great trucks. I love the sandbars. I would get a sandbar over any of the trucks for sure. Just again, the easy ability to modify these things without a whole lot of work, essentially. Like, I just want to do stuff and be done with it. I don't want it to take, you know, forever, like modifying some other vehicles. Like the midget, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to lower the back, which is removing a leaf spring, and it's just, I don't know, it's just, I wish it was simpler like the sandbar. But yeah, I mean, it's a great truck. My white truck's great. My van with the heart tip squid pipe, it's great. You just have to again take into consideration they're all old and they all have the ability to explode, depending on how you drive it and take care of it and service it. And yeah, hopefully, I know this was long, I'm almost at like 17 minutes, but hopefully it was helpful. If you're in the mood to buy a sandbar, or you're looking to get or you're getting a sandbar, or you have one and you need parts and stuff, be sure to check out my website, okgarage.com. I got a bunch of parts on there, and I'm more than willing to help out if you got questions. Just check out the website, hit me up, send me an email or something, comment. I'm always here selling parts and answering questions when I have time, and trying to do work on these things. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. Again, I have a Mitsubishi Bravo Route 66, which is sick with it's just like an Americanized K-van. It's hilarious with the eagle on it. I need to go back to California and get on the Route 66, take some pictures with it, but that's coming up, so I was waiting to do a video on that. But I don't really have a whole lot of work to do on the sandbars, so I'm just kind of yeah, taking care of business. But thought I would make this video since I haven't seen any of your guys' online faces. Anyways, take it easy, guys. See you on the next one.